from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defend Systems, Brink Fiddler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. Brink and Tom with you as always with Defend Systems and Herring Technology respectively. This is part 2 of our interview with my director of training, Adam McIntyre, talking about church safety teams. And part 1, or episode 1 I should say, we broke down kind of recruitment. How are we doing that? What kind of person are we looking for? The importance of people over equipment and all those sorts of things. And in this episode, we want to talk more to Adam about training and preparing that team. Equipping, I think this is part of that as well, not just the training piece, but training and development of the team and what goes into that. And, you know, I guess I would really want to get, I know what his opinion is because he's my director of training, but get Adam's opinion on in what order do we do things when it comes to that. You know, a lot of times I personally think, okay, church safety team, we recruit everybody, we're going to the gun range, we're all going to turn into John Wick first. Let's do that, make sure everybody has, you know, combat pistols, spare mags, and everybody's got red dots and, you know, all the things that everybody wants to have. And sure, yes, we got to be able to shoot bad guys, but do you even know what you're looking for? Much less have you ever, you know, gone through any kind of characteristics of armed gunman training? I mean, anything. So there's a lot that plays into it. Medical, trauma, like just communication. How do we talk on the radio? We talked a little bit about that last episode. Like that's one that like people forget hugely is even training on what radio etiquette is and how do we talk during an emergency and what are those things. So, you know, Adam, I want to toss it to you and just kind of let you go again, just sort of high level. We don't want to get way down in the weeds in this episode necessarily. Because I think we'll probably end up doing more parts to this and breaking down each section and kind of what that looks like. But if I'm a safety team lead, okay, I've got my team. Now what?
Yeah, one of the first things, even before we get into the, you know, armed versus non-armed and radios and everything, is that the safety team lead is establishing the mindset of this team. So what does that look like? Because the people that are comprising your team, again, they're doctors, nurses, teachers, whoever they are, Monday through Friday. So they got to turn this mindset on for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, however long they're going to be there for. And that's very, very hard to do. Opposed to law enforcement, military, we're indoctrinated into that mindset 24/7. So how do we do that, right? And through your training, through your conversations, you're always fostering and establishing that mindset of we are the first responders. You have to understand that. You have to understand that law enforcement is going to come, but we talk about it in our defense systems training all the time. There's timelines. They're going to come. But depending on how far you are from an urban area, it could be 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. So you guys know the lay of the land the best too. Like when law enforcement needs to get there, you're going to have to actually walk them onto targets because they don't know where they're going. So establishing that mindset is over equipment. We kind of talked about it in our last episode. You can have the greatest equipment. If you don't know how to utilize it and you don't have the mental capacity to understand your job and how to execute, it's all for nothing. You can look great and shoot like crap. It does not matter. You got to have that mindset. Another part of the mindset is act now. There is no waiting. Like you can't wait. And even in the training, when I do the safety team training, I'll compare and contrast Covenant versus Uvalde. Like act now. Like, yeah, Uvalde, they went in and then they got shot at and they're like, hey, we're going to backtrack a little bit. We're going to go to this T intersection and we're going to sit here for a long time. It was like 77 minutes before they ever went back in that room, opposed to Covenant.
One other thing I want to hit on with Uvalde, I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's 47 seconds, but I haven't looked at it in a long time. To your point, they went straight in. The first officers got there, they went straight in the building, just like they said they did, and that's very true. What they left out was they were at the door to that classroom where he's in there actively killing people for, I think it's 47 seconds before he ever shoots at them. Like they were at that door almost a full minute, like not down the hall from the door. I mean, at the door, and failed to act. And anyway, so yeah, great point. But I think that's one thing I try and bring up when I talk about Uvalde is like, you know, a failure to act. And so to your point, do something and do it now. Don't wait.
Yeah, you can't wait. I mean, that Uvalde people are in there, they're bleeding out. He's continuing the killing. You can't even stop the dying. You can't do anything. And opposed to Covenant, they come in there, and there's body cam footage on YouTube that you can watch, and they come in there and they execute. They come in there and they start doing room clearing, and they come in there and they hit the first door. And if they hit a locked door, they bypass it. They go to the next door, and they clear that one and keep going until they receive stimulus, and they say, screw all these doors, let's go. And they had the correct mindset. And, I mean, I don't know the training. I don't know all the stuff that they've been through, but wherever – whatever Metro did along that process through Academy or whatever training they had, someone had a great idea and they instilled that mindset, because it wasn't just one officer. It was all of them. It was a team. And they weren't even officially a team. Some of those guys, correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't even know each other.
No, I was going to say, so if you watch the body cam footage and you see Officer Rex Engelbert arrive, you see him get his rifle out of the back of his vehicle, and then you see him enter with Jeff, and Jeff's got with the beard and the shotgun. Prior to that day, Rex and Jeff had never even seen each other. They had never spoken to each other. They had never, and the two of them went, and then Sean, you joined them in the hallway. But as they hit rooms and as they cleared rooms, they were communicating. They were doing things. Was it perfect? No. Was it as bad as perfect as you can get considering the circumstances? Yes. And that is a testament. I mean, I won't just say hats off to Metro Police Department because they're my former employer. I mean, there's obviously plenty of gripes every former cop has with their former employer, but they do this well. They do it right. Our training academy it's world class, and that was evident that day. And it's a great segue into what we're talking about: the importance of preparing your team with mindset. And in our interview with Collazo, who for the people that are listening and don't know, is one of the two officers that ended up engaging the shooter at Covenant. And he talked extensively about his mindset on the way, like as he's responding to that call, what's going through his head. And that's everything. And if you as a church safety team leader don't establish that and do that on the front end with your team and set expectations, the time for that to happen is not during the event. I mean, the time for that to happen is before the event, and making sure they understand what is being asked of them and what they need to do in that moment.
And something else that was really cool, and not to segue to Covenant, but establishing the mindset they had is when they were started to receive stimulus, everybody was a leader. So whoever is, I'll say the point man, or whoever is leading, whoever can see what's in front of them, if they're relaying something back to the back of a line, I'll say, for instance, and the person in charge, the highest ranking person is the last person, they have to listen to that person that's up front. And it was evident when they started hitting the first set of doors. I believe Jeff outranked Rex.
Yeah, Jeff is a supervisor.
And he listened to him. They got into the hallway right before they neutralized the threat. And when Collazo called up Rex, well, Collazo could see what was happening. And the moment slowed down from him, from training, from mindset, and he was able to call Rex up and take that shot.
Who had those don't know, Rex had a more dominant weapon system, is what we're talking about. And you hit on stimulus. The three of us know what stimulus means. For the audience that doesn't do this every day, stimulus means like when you hear, smell, see something that gives you a clue of where they're going. Most time officers, military, most time it's gunshots, right? But other things could be stimulus, right? You go into a building, you're clearing it. You got nothing to go on, so you're hitting classrooms. You come to a T intersection, and you look down the hall to your right, and you see empty shell casings. That's stimulus. I mean, anything can technically be stimulus, but going into a building, if we got nothing to go on, we got to just go in like they did and start hitting rooms, and then once you have something else to go on, then you press towards it. Anyway, I just wanted to explain stimulus.
Well, the vital point there is, though, every one of them had base training of it. Even though they hadn't trained together, they knew what was going on. And I think that's your point on these teams. With church, they have to be the same way. They all have to have the base, because you don't know who's going to be there on a Sunday and who's not, because it's volunteer. It's not an assigned shift or anything, so you don't know who's going to be in front, who's going to be in back at that time. But it goes back to that base training, which is critical. Well,
you don't know who's going to be where. Even if you serve in the same spot every Sunday, that's great. You don't know where the attack's going to start in your building. So, the guy that sits on the back door all the time, doesn't think he'll ever have anything happen. He may be the point guy. If it happens on his wing, I mean, yeah, they all got to be on the same page. But to Adam's point, that starts with mindset and making sure that leadership of that team is articulate about what that mindset is and what's expected of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people struggle with, well, how do I get my guys to step up to be a leader? And that goes back to your training blocks before that bad day ever happens. So just because I'm the safety team leader, I'm not going to lead every training. I might not be the subject matter expert when it comes to medical. So if I have a guy or two on the team that is great at medical, I'm going to empower you. You're going to lead that block. And me as a leader, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to be in the class. I'm going to be attentive. I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to be behind you, judging you this whole time. I want you to step up and be that leader. If we have a radio class, all right, hey, we have a really great communications guy or a guy that plays video games and he knows how to communicate the best because he's been playing Call of Duty for 15 years. I don't know. Yeah. And he knows how to communicate over the radio. Well, hey, we're going to listen to him. All right. That will translate into, hey, I'm going to trust you in that moment to be a leader. I'm going to listen to you. And it's a two-way, street with that trust thing. Like, I trust him. He was able to deliver a class to my people. He was able to train them. If he has to go off and he's, 2 buildings over during this incident, I'm going to trust what he says, and I have to, because he has the eyes on. If you're sitting back here in the sanctuary as the leader and someone else is 2 buildings over and they're reporting back, you're like, that's not true. No, that's the wrong answer. They got eyes on. You got to listen to them and empower your people to be leaders, allow them to speak up. And all that is, going back to how you foster your training when you actually do training as a safety team.
Adam, I want to, and don't smack me, Brink, but I'm jumping back to the previous episode of picking a team. But when you keep talking about leadership during a scenario, I think it's critical. And I want to ask you, how do you pick? We talked about picking the team. We talked about all that. We never talked about picking the leader for that church safety team and what you're looking for in that role, because that's where all of this stems from, and getting the right person to direct that from the start. What kind of mindset that is, what are good qualities for it to put all this together?
Yeah, I think one of the most important qualities is actually someone that wants to do it. Brink mentioned last episode, he might be the best guy at his church to, if he doesn't want to lead the security team, but to be a point man on the counter assault team. Well, if Brink doesn't want to do it, don't force him to do it, because he's not going to do it to 100%. So again, you might take less of a person that isn't tactically applied or doesn't know all the tactics, but if they want to do it and give it 110%, that's what I'm going to look for. Someone that is going to strive to be the best. They might not be the best, but if they want to be a leader and they're stepping up and they're fostering a good culture and environment within the team, then, hey, man, I'm going to stick you in that lead position. And if you have a team and, then Johnny over here, he was a good leader and identified that over time, then he has a team. And then, hey, man, I want you to go ahead and start looking for your replacement. That might be 2 years from now, but if you go down, who's next?
Yeah.
And I would brief that every Sunday. Like, hey, man, here's our chain of command. If things go really south, here is the first I'm in charge, and then it goes to Johnny, Bob, George, Alex, etc. That way everyone knows, man, if I go down, then he's next up. And, that's ever flowing, because some people might have a subpar 6 months. They might have something going on at home. You got to communicate that, leader pick up on that. Like, hey, man, I noticed you've been a little off. You have something going on. Like, hey, why don't you take a step back? Worry about that stuff. Johnny can take over for a little bit until you get your head above water, and we move on. So it's just identifying those things as a leader to nominate more leaders. But always start looking for, the next person that can be a leader and someone that wants to do it. I think that is the most important thing. Don't force that function, because you're not going to get 100% out of them.
Mm. Somebody that's committed to the church too, right? Like, I should have said this in that previous episode too, but you're looking, recruiting the team, the leader, whoever, it doesn't matter who it is, to be honest with you. If it's somebody that you see at church once every 6 weeks, they're not the guy, right? Like, for whatever reason, and whatever, I'm not judging anybody that goes to church more often that's not what I'm saying. But if it's somebody that you see is consistently there almost every single Sunday, they're committed to that church and that day every week and all those things. And like, that's going to be more the people you want to talk to than the guy you see once every 2 months. And again, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, when we're talking about consistency is key. The church safety team lead at my church, which obviously you know very well, he has other duties, and it causes him to travel sometimes. And so he's not there on Sundays, but he's got a very consistent plan with who's number 2, and if no 2's not there, who's number 3, and like have all those things in place. From a training perspective, Adam, kind of big blocks, right? Like, there's the must-haves and the nice-to-haves when it's that, right? So what are your must-haves for church safety teams as far as training?
Yeah, it might sound very basic, but it's communication. If you can't communicate something from the parking lot that you're identifying and is about to walk inside, then you're doing absolutely nothing. And that one comes with having the equipment, just a radio. You don't have to go out there and spend a crazy amount of money or nothing. But if you can't communicate effectively, everything is all for nothing. That could be the person sitting on the camera communicating. If you have layers of security from the parking lot to the doors of the sanctuary to your pastor security detail team, like those 5 layers, like it needs to communicate all the way to the front row of that sanctuary. And if you can't do that, then everything you're doing is all for nothing. And you're just a show of force, which is okay. But if you want to be effective, you have to be able to communicate. So getting radio classes in, and hey, when we communicate and we call somebody out, if we want to give a description, how are we giving that description and what's our maximum amount of time we want to be on the radio? Let's just say 10 seconds. Hey, work head to toe of what that person looks like. And then, someone else picks that person up, say, hey, copy, yep, I got that person. Now, if they have something to add to it, but don't go over the same description. Yeah, I got the guy with a black hat, a black shirt. He has a brown belt, blue pants, and, brown shoes. And it's like,
right.
I just heard that on the radio. I don't need to hear it again. Just, you pick up that person and continue to, now if somebody's going to go engage them, you as a person, if you go engage that person, if you have time, calling over the radio. But if you're engaging that person, don't sit there on the radio about 2 feet from them relaying stuff to your safety team. All right? Because that kind of picks up to that person, whatever. And do stuff like that in buddy teams if you're going to do it. If you can, if it's applicable to do it. But
I would venture to say that's the most overlooked with church safety teams. Like that I've talked to and encountered, none of them have ever done a comms class. They've never done a radio etiquette class. They've never done drills with radios. They use them.
Well, that's even when I have one on Saturday, and one question I'll ask her in the class is, hey, before you guys go out on Sunday and you guys go to your different duties and responsibilities and positions, I was like, do you guys do radio checks? No. So the first time you're going to learn your radio doesn't work is when you really need it. So, I'll tell them like, hey, before you ever go out on Sunday, if you have a 1-minute brief, that's 1 minute better than what you were before. So whatever that is, it's like, hey, today we only have 5 people. You're going here, 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 and here. Everyone has their radio. Does everybody have this? Everybody have that? All right, cool. Let's sit in this circle, and we're all going to key up on the radio. And if you hear me talk on the radio, I want you all to give me a thumbs up. Oh, no, everyone gave me a thumbs down because you didn't hear me? All right, well, let me switch out this radio. Oh, my battery's dead. Just simple things. A lot of people think that with training church security team, it's like, all right, we got to do all this room clearing and, gunfire over here. No. Even when I start off a team and we start room clearing, there is no pistol in their hand. There is no gun. I'm a big football fan, so I understand, research their practices and how they do it. And when they do walkthroughs days before the game, they're just in shorts and a shirt, walking through their plays. I'm like, that's what we're going to do. If you don't understand where to go in the room when we're doing room clearing, I'm not going to give you a gun. All right, now we'll get to the walk phase. All right, now I'll hand you the gun. You're not even shooting yet, but I just want to make sure you're aiming it in the right spot before we ever get to shooting. So establish a very crawl, walk, run method. And if you don't get to run, guess what? It's not the end of the day. Like, it's fine. You might not get to run for 3 months. Get really good at crawling. And people, they'll say, oh, man, let's continue to train until we get it right. No. Continue to train until you don't get it wrong anymore. Now, if you go through that run and it's 15 times and you crushed it 15 times, let's move on. But if you ran that run 15 times and, you're only good 50% of the time, it's maybe not good enough yet to move to the next phase. So let's continue to do this until we don't get it wrong. And not just get it right once.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
In y'all's training, we're talking about room clearing and things like that and radios. How much do you guys go into just training them in de-escalation prior to it ever reaching that point, or them engaging with not a suspect, but a curious person, training on that?
Yeah, so we'll talk about it, and what I'll do a lot of times before I go to the church is say, are there things specifically you guys have encountered that you guys feel you're really weak with that you would like to do when I come out there? That way it's, you're paying us to come out there. I want to make sure you get what you want. I'm also going to train on all these things, but if I can include something that you really want, such as de-escalation, all right, we'll run a scenario where, I'll bring a bad guy and we'll walk into the sanctuary and we need to de-escalate the situation. So we will talk about that. And what I really hammer home is during this whole church safety team training, we're always planning for what I call the most dangerous course of action. So just because somebody comes in there and they're hooting and hollering and they want to talk to the pastor up front, doesn't mean that you as a safety team member, one, needs to get up and just shoot this guy, but also doesn't mean that you need to sit on your butt. You need to start posturing for the most dangerous course of action. And a lot of that is just wargaming and talking about these things before it ever happens, just scripting it. It doesn't even need this training. We can just sit around a room, have coffee, and talk about these things. If somebody walks up to the pastor and they start hooting and hollering, what are we going to do? Let's talk about that. Now, a lot of people, they get so centerized and focused on that one person. So you got 10 people in the sanctuary. They're all looking at that one person. Wrong answer. You might only have 2 or 3 people that are dealing with that person. The other 6 or 7, they need to be turned around, facing the doors, looking for another person, another threat. You don't know who else is with that person. You got to keep those knowns. Now, during that de-escalation, the one thing I'll say is, hey, I have a slide. We'll talk about it for 5 or 10 minutes. The number one thing is whoever that person is, if you can diffuse the situation slightly, remove that person from the sanctuary as quick and safely as you can. Get that person away from your large population. Get them out. Now, when you get them out there, whatever you got to do, you got to do. The pastor probably going to want to talk to them, but don't leave the pastor and that person alone either. If you're a safety team member, you're following them outside that sanctuary. Now, whatever happens inside the sanctuary, if you want to lock the doors, whatever, just again to secure it and then take care of the people in the flock in there, then you got to do that. But we do talk about it. It's not as in depth. It's not a long part of the training, but we do talk about it because that's a lot of people. Well, what if somebody comes in there and start hooting and hollering? Honestly, just talk to them like a normal person. Get them to lower their voice. Listen to them. Empathize with them. And then ask them, hey, do you want to go talk somewhere else where it's more private? And remove them from that sanctuary.
I was actually working an event I wasn't working. I was there as a guest, but it was under our organization at the time. And the church security team, it was an unusual suspect walking around, and you were trying to figure out what he's doing. And it was very obvious he was misplaced and behavior going on. And so I started kind of tailing him just to see what was going on. But one of the church safety team members was, as you said, about 3 feet away from him, following him on the radio, radioing back and I'm like, can someone pull this guy? He's going to trigger this guy if he is up to something. But that's the training of, hey, back off and watch and observe. Don't, and I think they need that training too, because this guy was Barney Fife on the job. Boy, he was all over him, and I was just like,
I'm right behind him. He's wearing a tan vest,
yes,
a white shirt with
I could
blue
hear
and
him.
brown stripes.
And I was
think he
further
might
away.
snap at any minute, but I'm right here. Headquarters, tell me what to do.
Yeah. So that is part of the training that I think needs to be emphasized, because that's before something happens.
Yeah.
And then obviously during live fire, it's different.
Yeah, if it hits the fan, right? And that's, to Adam's point, preparing for the most dangerous course of action, whether we get there or not. Like, in our brains, we need to be there, like in that moment. But everything in between too, and obviously in the team world where you come from, you guys, and I didn't realize it had changed. You corrected me a year or two ago. Shoot, move, communicate, medicate, right? And so, obviously, the move piece in this is part of the training, but shoot, communicate, and medicate. Like, can we defend ourselves and these people? Yes or no? Can we win that fight, whatever kind of fight it is, whether it's a de-escalation and get them out of the sanctuary, or it's the worst gunfight we've been in? Can we do that? Can we communicate effectively while we're trying to do that? Either headed off at the pass, encounter at the parking lot, whatever that is. So obviously communicates first, right? Obviously it sounds better to say shoot, move, communicate, medicate, but even for you guys in special operations, communicate still first. Like we were talking off air, and I won't get too into it, but about you guys were looking at some targets. You were talking to some support that was looking at the same, but they didn't have the same overlay or whatever you called it. I don't remember. And you're like, I don't understand how you have your job. Like if do you not have this information that I'm saying to you that's really important where this bad guy is? And the answer was no. Well, why? Okay. And again, I don't want to get too off into it, but communication is, and it goes first. I mean, in all the stuff that we study, all these events and all this stuff, when you listen just to the police radio traffic, I mean, the first thing that goes in the tank is communication. And cops are trained on it. And military's trained on it. And it still goes in the tank. So imagine you guys listening that you have this church safety team and you've never done anything around training for it. What do you think's going to happen? Even if all your radios do work, you listen to Adam and you did your comms check, great. But you've never trained them. You've never walked through scenarios on it. You've never said who's supposed to say what and when.
Yeah, one simple thing even on the radios that's overlooked, and we'll have to do it in the Army when we got new body armor or you changed your pouches around is, all right, well, I have this radio that's sitting on my hip right now. It's clipped in. Well, let me run 100 yards. Let me jump up and down and see what happens then. And it comes off, and now it's dangling down your feet. You're trying to run. You're trying to, look at your threat and everything, and you just, oh, dude. I mean, I've been there. I'm not saying that I have not, because I 100% have. And, that's when you just play around with your kit and, how do you secure the radio here? And like, all right, well, this cord now is running in a location where, my rifle's going to go. Like, it takes some time, have some patience. And one of the things I'll talk about is, eventually, train like you fight. So I'm not saying every church safety team training that you have to be all kitted up and everything, because there's your walk and crawl phase, but eventually get in, hey, what am I wearing on Sunday? Everything. And train in that and see what works and what doesn't, because you're going to find you're going to identify your points of failures and then come together as a group. Don't do it as a singleton or in a vacuum as one person. Like, all right, guys, what's working and what is not? Because we want to sustain the things that are working, and we want to fix the things that aren't, whether it's equipment, personnel, positions, it doesn't matter. Just, listen up, annotate it, and continue to work to improve those things. And you're not going to improve all 10 things that you might identify overnight, but, list them from 1 to 10 of importance. Be like, all right, let's tackle this first one. Number 1, this is a critical thing that we need to fix before next Sunday. How do we do it? Everything else, it's high priority, but it can wait over that number 1 thing. So train like you fight, put your equipment in locations, and figure out what works.
Well, you just hit a major point. It just hit me because I've been in a lot of these church trainings, observing them or participating, whatever, or any active shooter trainings. And when you have them after hours and people come, they're wearing BDUs and equipment and things to train in. But that's not what they're wearing on Sunday. They're wearing a sport coat to cover up their firearm. They're in dress clothes, dress shoes when they're not. And it just hit me when you just said that. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you're running all these trainings in equipment that is prepared for that, but then on Sunday when you're there live doing it, you're in something totally different. Train in what you just hit on.
That's like even going back to the military. I mean, it's great to go out to the range and just sit there and shoot. All right, well, now let's throw on body armor. Let's throw on your helmet. Let's throw on your night vision. Oh, you carry a backpack on mission? Oh, throw that on too. Throw on all this stuff, and you're like, this is no longer fun. It's not made to be fun. It really stinks. I know Brink talked on the last episode about me jumping out of airplanes, and skydiving sounds great. Well, the Army takes all the fun out of it. Everything. It doesn't matter if it's
you
rappelling.
Got the low bid equipment, buddy.
Yeah, that too. It doesn't matter if it's rappelling, scuba diving, jumping out of planes, like driving vehicles, for instance. Like the Army will rip all the fun out of it, but there is a purpose behind it. And when you're really training in that run phase, it's going to stink a little bit. You're going to sweat. You're going to find out your points of failures, and you make it as fun as possible during that event, but it will stink a little bit, and it just is what it is. But if you do that run phase, and it does stink now, if you ever have to do it real world, it's going to be 10 times easier.
And that's why we do like tactical emergency casualty care, like to the level we do, like, we're making the environment as real as possible for people, so that in the moment, it's a lot easier for them to perform under the stress of the moment, because it's kind of been there, done that. Right. And, little shameless plug for Matt Murphy, who's a talk show host here in Nashville that does our endorsements, full disclosure, but he came through tactical emergency casualty care as a student. And he told me, we were talking after Covenant school shooting happened, and he told me, he said about that class, he said, when I went through your class, he said, I really loved it. He said, but I did think that the the part with all the fog and the sirens and the people screaming and the low light and flashing lights and all that, he says, I thought that was kind of a little over the top. And he said, and then I saw the body cam footage from Covenant, and I saw smoke and flashing lights and sirens and people yelling. He thought, that's not over the top at all. Like, so making sure, I guess y'all probably have the same thing, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Like yes, it can suck, but if it sucks in training, it'll suck less the day that it happens to you, whatever that is. We're not saying everybody needs to go out in full kit in July and have to need an IV 12 minutes into the gun range day if you're on a church safety. That's not what I'm saying. Hear me, Van Gogh listeners, as Phil used to call them. But I'm saying, like, take it serious if you're going to do it. You don't have to go over the top with it, but take it serious. I do want to get into the obviously the medicate part, the shoot part, all that. But on the shoot part, Adam, we kind of transition into that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think setting expectations is huge for that. Understanding that everybody you have on your safety team are not going to be the guy that's going to make a 40-yard shot with a pistol in a crowded sanctuary. And that's okay. Like, that's fine. Just know who your strengths and weaknesses are, but set goals and expectations. Have a training regimen that continues to develop your people in their marksmanship. And you and I talk all the time about, marksmanship. So shooting at a piece of paper or cardboard that doesn't shoot back at you is marksmanship, right? And we can give you a few tools where you can go do that on your own. Like, you don't necessarily need us to teach you marksmanship. Learning how to win a gunfight in your building is a totally different skill set than marksmanship. And that's what we can help you do, or anybody that's in this world that's good can help you do. But that's why we like to train in the building with you and talk about your building and your people and your personnel and your sanctuary and all those things, so that I can win a gunfight in here. And that's very different than shooting at a piece of paper that doesn't shoot back at you. But marksmanship is a huge piece of that as well. So you can talk a little bit about the firearm side of the house, but also the documentation of that and why that's important.
Yeah, so if you want to arm people on your team, you got to have standards and have a standard operating procedure. And you as a leader, it might be one of the hardest things to do is actually follow that to a T and not bend rules for certain people. And be like, George is my best friend, and the standard on our team is once a quarter, every 3 or 4 months, is to go qualify to whatever standard that is. Well, George is my best friend, and he hasn't qualified in 2 quarters, but I know he's good for it. No, because you're setting a bad, toxic environment for the rest of your team, not upholding the standard for that one person. If you uphold the standard for that one person and they know that George is your best friend, the rest of your team is going to respect you a lot more because you're holding his feet to the fire and keeping him accountable. So whatever your standard is, it could be once a quarter, once every 6 months, whatever it is. And if you're unsure of what to do, go get with your local law enforcement, the city or the county, and see what their qualification standards are. Whatever their qualification standards are, I might just say, hey, go ahead and double that. If it's, where they're going to go to the range 1 time a year, we'll go twice and shoot the same course. That is fine. But whatever that is, if you let those people go do it by themselves and they go to a range, when you go to the range and you shoot, I want that piece of paper. I want it documented with your name and date and where you went, and even a phone number on there, in case I want to call to that range to ensure that you actually went there that day and you didn't poke holes in the piece of paper or whatever it is. And be very descriptive on the course of fire or how you're going to shoot. Describe to these people the distances and put those in an actual manual. So when they come on the team, be like, hey, listen, here is the standard. If you are going to carry on this team, you're going to carry this kind of ammunition. You can't carry these guns. You can carry this type, something that is concealed. And here's the training that you have to do. Hey, once a quarter, you're going to go to the range on your own, and I want to see the piece of paper. I want to see the date. I want to see the time, all these things, and then put that in your book in case anything ever happens, you from a legal standpoint, and be like, hey, I did my due diligence. Everyone has always qualified once a quarter. Here's all their documentation. Here's their weapons. Here's if they have an armed guard license, put that in there. Build the biggest, most robust book that you can on all your training and all your documentations. That way, if something ever happens, hey man, you're going to be better off for it, instead of just being like, I've talked to some safety team leaders, like, do you have people on your team that carry? Yeah. Well, what do you guys do for training or qualification? I'm like, man, we don't. Well, now your team's become a liability opposed to a capability. You know, I don't expect people to go out there 3 times a week shooting. You know, they're shooting. I wish I could, right? I can't, but 15 times a month. But if they can get out there once a quarter, and you understand that they're shooting from 5 meters, 7 meters, 10 meters, or whatever you deem necessary, and a lot of that could be based off what your sanctuary looks like in your hallways. Like, I need to make sure people are shooting to this qualification standard from 10 meters. And don't just make that because you heard it somewhere. Have a why behind it. Like, I want you to do 10 meters because X, Y, and Z. Okay, that makes sense. And explain the why to your people. So, man, I'm going to qualify. I've done a lot of different marksmanship classes. I've never done this before. And explain, hey, man, I need you to do this because here's the why. They'll be a lot more apt to go do it on their own and, whatever. But you have to document it, keep it in a book, and don't just keep it in there for a year. Keep it in there for 3, 4, 5 years. No reason to throw it away. Like, keep all that. If you make a standard operating procedure, you make a book for your church safety team, have them read it. Have them, if you want to ask them some questions, what do you think about something? Kind of check on them. Did you read it? Have them sign off on something. Like, yep, I, Adam McIntyre, agree to everything in this standard operating procedure. All right, cool. That way there's no other disagreement. If you disagree with something, you want to change something, that's one thing down the road. Like, well, I didn't like that you said blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, hey, man, on September 1st, you agreed to everything that was in there. You were aligned with the same goals and everything, whether, I know we're talking about the arm stuff, but I agreed with you on all the arm stuff and the qualification standards. Well, then, hey, George, why aren't you doing it? I just don't want to. And that goes back into them. Well, maybe this person isn't the best fit for the team. If your child's sick and you can't get to the range on the day you're scheduled, get it. Life happens. We all understand that. But if it's the same person always making some random excuses to not qualify and they become that liability, then, hey, you're still part of the team right now, but you can't carry until you do X, Y, and Z and get it up to par.
George is a problem child on your team, isn't he?
Well, we're sitting here talking about George, and I clicked down a few slides, and I have a task organization slide to show when I do the safety team training, and I have like 12 different names on there and their duty. Are they armed, not armed? Do they have radios? And are they medic? And the number one name up at the top, guess what it is?
George.
I don't even know a George.
I love that you don't have a Brink or Tom on your team. That's kind of BS. Like, yeah. I don't know.
I do have a Tom.
But no Brink.
Look, so I did this after I met him.
Okay.
Look at his duty description.
Oh, Tom, cameras. Yeah. And TECC qualified. Good to know.
It wasn't intentional, but just looking at it, I'm like, man, something was in my brain saying Tom needs to be on the cameras. So
that's so funny.
I like it.
Well, on the firearms qualification stuff, just to piggyback on what you said, what I've always told church safety teams is this. Number one, I recommend the people on the team go get your armed guard license, at least in Tennessee. It's not a difficult course. I think it's an 8-hour course. If you are carrying a gun as part of a church safety team, you're doing that in order to defend yourself and other people in that church. And the lawsuit's going to say you were acting as an armed guard. Okay. So like, whatever, go get your armed guard licensure. If you don't do that, at a minimum, to Adam's point, I would qualify to the exact same standard as local law enforcement, whatever your jurisdiction is, and twice as often, so that we're a litigious society, right? Everybody sues for everything. You end up in a lawsuit, you can go in front of that jury and you can say, I qualified to the exact same standard as local law enforcement jurisdiction. I did it twice as often. And that's the reason behind that. What I want to transition to, and on the shoot part, and before we get to medicate and kind of wrap up here, you and I are lockstep on this, on having somebody assigned to counter assault and the introduction of a rifle platform into church safety teams. And a lot of people bristle when they hear this, but once we explain it, they get it. What most church safety teams are ready for is the guy walking in, the disgruntled guy stands up in the middle of the sanctuary with a pistol to do something stupid. Most church safety teams are ready for that. What they're not ready for is 4 guys rolling up in full kit with AK-47s in a minivan to jump out and assault your church. You're not ready for that, folks. Like I would venture to say 99% of church safety teams are not ready for that. And that's where somebody with a rifle platform being staged, and in our minds, and you do you, but we can help you on this, staged centrally located, like where most activity is, where you have the most potential for damage. And that person's entire role is to be counter assault. Like, they're not seen. Like, that's why pastors bristle a little bit. But once we explain it to pastors and they say, got it, nobody's ever going to see them. Like, nobody's ever going to see this person in a kit and a rifle. Never. Unless the worst day happens, and you will be praying your butt off that you have them. Because in some safety team training scenarios we're working on, like we could keep a church safety team at bay and with two of us for a really long time, just based on tactics and weapon and equipment. And so having the ability to meet fire with fire, i.e. rifle platform stuff, I just can't reiterate that enough. And so people don't feel like they're ready for that, or you're like, oh, hey, there's only 3 people on my team I think I would trust with the rifle. Well, how do you know? I mean, and sometimes to you and I, the best person to put a rifle in their hands was the guy that's never touched one, because they don't have any bad habits yet. We can develop them real quick. Whatever that is, I just, and whatever you want to echo on that, I know you feel in lockstep with me on this because we've talked about it so much, but that's where, like, the threats are constantly developing and evolving. Well, we need to do the same thing. We got to stop being reactive and be more proactive.
I saw a phrase this past week to what you're just pointing out, and it said, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Amen.
And that's what you just,
amen.
It's doesn't fit, but when it happens, as you said, all hands are up in the air to wish there was.
Yeah, and, if you have a lot of people in the sanctuary carrying a pistol, that's great. And if you go watch the YouTube video with Jack Wilson down at his church and he takes that shot, what I want you to do after that is go look at Jack Wilson's background and how prepared he was for that. And how many, who knows how much he's shot over the course of his life to pretty much prepare for that one moment. Where you take 1,000 people and put them in his position to take that shot after, gunfire's going off and everything. I don't know how many people are making that shot that he did and how well he did with hazards between him and his threat. Like, it is low percentage.
I'd say less than 5%.
Yeah, easily.
It's a headshot. It's not far. I mean, it's far. Dude's moving. Jack used to own a gun range. I mean, yeah. To your point, most people don't train to that standard. But also thinking about taking a 45-yard shot in a crowded sanctuary with a pistol versus a rifle. And
that's where a rifle will really benefit, your safety team, your church, your congregation, to protect them. And brings, point of positioning them. Well, hey, man, if they can get to the sanctuary and if they got to move spots, as long as they're masked, that's fine. Because I guess, kind of biased, but, when Brink and I have done this a couple of times, like, we were kitted up to the teeth, ready to go. It just is what it is, because I want to be more prepared than that bad guy or bad guys coming in here. Right. So, yeah, I'm in body armor, and I have a helmet on, I have a radio. Actually 2 radios at times. That way, 2 different lines of communication to 2 different entities. Rifle, mags, medical equipment, you name it, because we are prepared to do that. Now, a great thing about a counter assault team, and I actually saw a video, someone sent me the other day on Instagram, of there was a church doing safety team training, and they received some stimulus from outside the sanctuary. Well, everybody, the safety team members inside, they just start scattering. There was no direction, no sectors of fire, just cats going everywhere. If you have a dedicated counter-assault team, you don't have to question who is going to where the stimulus is. Opposed to if you only had 10 safety team members and there was all 10 of them were in the sanctuary in whatever formation you want, you're going to have to start making decisions. All right, well, hey, I want Tom and Brink. I need you guys to come over here to go this way. If you have a counter-assault team, when that stimulus happens, hey, man, they're listening to the people on the cameras telling them exactly where they need to go, and they're gone. They're not waiting for their decision is, we heard something, and we're gone. I'm not waiting for Adam, the safety team leader, to be like, hey, counter-assault team, you're clear to go. No. They're on their own. They're gone. Now, yeah, they're relaying to the camera person. They're communicating with the camera person. Leadership person, they're just listening, soaking it all in, obtaining all information from different entities so they can make well-informed decisions. They don't need to tell that counter-assault team nothing. They're gone. They're on their own. They have the camera person telling them where they need to go, but let them do their thing. That way you have the rest of the safety team inside that sanctuary to lock it down, lock all the doors. You have, however large your congregation is, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 people. Now, the one thing I will add to this is if you have all your safety team members that are armed inside your sanctuary and you don't have at least one wherever your youth rooms are, you're doing something wrong. Because that's our most vulnerable population.
Amen.
If a gunman walks into a sanctuary and starts shooting, they're going to get people. Yes, 100%. Adults will be able to, make some more calculated and informed decisions on how to evade or get out of there. Our kids don't. They just don't. So if you have a person or two that you can spare that is armed, put them over by the youth room, and that's where they're going to be the whole time, because that's our most vulnerable population. They can't make decisions for themselves. And not to go down a dark hole here, but these sickos, that's what they want, because it will be more advertised in the news. So those are the people that we need to protect. Sutherland Springs, Texas, that's when he actually went inside. That's what he discriminated against, women and children.
Yep. Well, I want to just hit on medicate and kind of wrap. And I think just as all this is transpiring, I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more here that we could unpack and dial in on and break down further in episodes. But medicate meaning trauma medicine. Treat yourself, treat each other till EMS arrives, whatever that looks like. Who needs to have that skill set? Everyone on your safety team, and probably a lot of people in your church body. We do a lot of training for churches, and they'll do greeters, ushers, staff, safety team. Everybody needs to know how to do this. It's just life skill stuff. If you win the gunfight and kill the dude, but he clipped your femoral on the way out, and you don't have a tourniquet and you have no idea what to do, you didn't really win that gunfight, right? I mean, you're so like being able to do that is huge. Stop the bleed classes are free. So if that's obviously an option. We incorporate trauma medical as just part of our training always. It's just such an important piece. But I feel like that can be a whole episode by itself. So we should probably plus this. We're going a little long here on this one, but if you can take out bad guys, but you can't fix people, you're wrong, right? Like at the end of the day, it's just like if you got 10 armed guys in the sanctuary and nobody with the kids, you're wrong. So don't overlook that piece. Granted, it's not near as sexy, right, as shooting bad guys and CQB and breaching doors and blah, 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 blah. But it is vitally important to be able to do that for preservation of life, not just protection of life. So I don't know if you have anything you want to echo on that. But
no, I mean, the training, a lot of people think that, oh, man, to be able to save somebody's life, the training is super hard, or I got to, read these books and go to school for it. Like, no, it is very easy. It's very, I'm going to say common practice, but once you learn it, you're like, oh man, this is not rocket science. This is super easy. Is it perishable? 100% it is. And that's, you need to refresh, you need to retrain and ensure you're learning as much as you can. And, then it comes second to that is you have the knowledge now, the equipment. Even if you're in a church safety team and you're not carrying a kit and all this stuff, like if you're carrying a tourniquet on you at least, like you're going to save somebody's life. It's that easy. I mean, there's some other things that you can do as well, but you got to equip yourself and have that knowledge to be able to save somebody's life. So you stop the killing and stop the dying, and you're going to succeed.
One thing, Brink, before we go, it's important. It hit me way back as we off air we were talking, and we mentioned something that's truly critical in this training and communications and shoot zone, everything, is the facility itself, knowing it and how well you know it and how well can you communicate where something is going on. And I'm going to make a plug here for a company, but it's GRG Grids.
CRG.
CRG is the company, but but for the military, I believe.
GRG.
Yeah, GRG, which is basically, it's Battleship. For those that don't know, it puts your whole church grounds, facility, everything into quadrants. So L7, B8, and everybody knows that. And that, as far as communication training goes and facilities goes, it lets everybody know exactly the spot to go to. And it is a company. They are, don't think they're local, but they go all over.
They have local reps.
Yeah, they have local reps here. You can contact us or Defend Systems.
Or Critical Response Group.
Yep.
That's the name of the company. And we're both huge fans.
And it's the most simple thing you've ever seen. But we provide all kinds of technology, AI to shot detection to everything else. And it was hilarious because when they came in, we were like, this is the most basic, simple thing,
right,
and no one has it. Everybody says left hallway upstairs. Well, your safety, and when you're in a rush, you don't know that. So if you can do that simple thing for your facility, the communication, your training, everything is much better. Plus, just knowing your facilities and your facility director. Where's your gas shut off? Where's this? People don't know when they do that map for you, it's all on there. So you know if somebody says something, oh, it's in M4, go there.
Yep.
And shut the gas off or the water, or where's law enforcement responding to. They don't know which door is what you call it at your facility. Right. You can tell them. And the second thing, we'll save that for another episode, but also the training on once you engage and what they call the first responders get there, the training between those two. What's the handoff look like? How are they approaching? That is critical as well.
It's funny because as you 2 minutes ago was going through my head is, all right, well, another episode is once we get to that point of, hey, we eliminated the threat, then what now? And one of the most dangerous operations you'll ever do in the military and special operations is link up procedures. So now, yeah, you eliminated that bad guy in that one room. Are there more bad guys on this campus, in this facility? I got to go find out. I don't know. But at the same time, law enforcement's coming there, and you're running around with a rifle, pistol, whatever you have. So what does that look like? And I think that will be a good episode.
Yeah, amen. Well, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think this is a huge topic right now, is just as threats to houses of worship continue to develop and increase. More and more people are understanding that this is a thing. And obviously, if we can help you develop that, or Tom can help you on the technology piece with your SOC, whatever that looks like, I mean, by all means, reach out. We're really passionate about what we do. And we do the podcast for education, not because we're trying to grow a massive audience. We really want to educate people in this world and pass on knowledge that other people have passed on to us. To be honest with you, we're not reinventing the wheel here. But if you guys do like what you're hearing, we'd love for you to subscribe. Leave us reviews on podcast platforms is also helpful. And if you have guests or show ideas, we're always welcome to those as well. You can email us at info@tipstacticstools.com.
I'm out.